Jasmine Crockett drops receipts, and the fallout begins. Jasmine Crockett didn't make wild accusations. She presented facts. And within hours, Barron Trump was escorted off stage, and questions about a hidden server started surfacing. You could sense something was about to unfold the moment Crockett leaned forward in her seat. It wasn't abrupt. It was deliberate, as if she was preparing to say something that couldn't be undone. The segment had been running for about 20 minutes, just another routine political roundtable on a Friday night. The topic was youth involvement in politics. Standard talking points: low voter turnout, social media bubbles, Gen Z frustration with the system. Crockett had mostly stayed quiet, listening. A former Missouri senator was going on about how young people lack respect for institutions. A network analyst kept looping the conversation back to TikTok. Then, someone cracked a throwaway joke about Barron Trump potentially running for office one day. The audience chuckled politely. That's when she moved. "I don't think it's funny," Crockett said, her voice steady. "Especially not when there are concerning discussions happening online, and someone using Barron Trump's device might have been involved." A silence settled over the broadcast. Dead air. You could feel the control room tense up. The host, clearly rattled, asked Congresswoman Crockett, "Are you implying what it sounds like?" "I'm saying," she replied, "that if any other teenager were involved with the types of groups I've been briefed on, they'd already be in federal custody. But because this kid's last name is Trump, we're acting like it doesn't matter." It landed hard. No soft phrasing, no hedging. She laid it out, plain and sharp. The panel froze. A veteran Republican strategist tried to play it down. "That's a serious claim, Jasmine. Without evidence." She didn't flinch. "You want evidence?" She reached for her bag and pulled out a manila folder. The host didn't intervene. Maybe he assumed it was a bluff. It wasn't. Inside were color printouts, group chats, Reddit threads, Discord conversations, usernames matching Barron's known gaming handles, screenshots from a private server where people joked about classified information, some of it not yet released to the public. There wasn't anything blatantly illegal in the screenshots, but the implications were deeply troubling, especially given that some of the user IP addresses traced back to Mar-a-Lago's residential area. That's when everything shifted. The jokes stopped. The cameras kept rolling. No producer called for a wrap. The Republican consultant made another attempt to dismiss it. "Anyone can doctor images." Crockett smiled, but it wasn't warm. "Which is why I had them verified by 2 separate cybersecurity firms, including one your party used during the 2020 recount." That hit the room like a dropped weight. For a moment, no one spoke. The host murmured something about needing to move on, but Crockett wasn't done. "I'm not saying Barron Trump broke a law," she clarified. "I'm saying if he had any other last name, we'd be having a very different conversation." And just like that, the air changed again. Not because everyone agreed, but because they knew something had just cut through the usual noise of cable news. By the time the show cut to commercial, Twitter had already caught fire. A 15-second clip of Crockett's "different conversation" remark was clipped and posted by an audience member. It went viral almost instantly. Within the hour, Jasmine vs. Barron was trending. But it wasn't just social media buzz. Newsrooms began calling senior correspondents mid-broadcast. The control room considered pulling the segment early. Too late. Crockett's communications team had already uploaded the screenshots to a secure server, along with a time-stamped memo. "This is not a stunt. This is real." She hadn't told anyone on her team she was going to make the drop live, not even her aides. Later, she said she didn't want to be talked out of it. "Too many people get silenced before they say anything," she told her assistant on the ride home. Network executives scrambled. They debated issuing a clarification. But by then, the story had left the studio. Elsewhere, at a ballroom in Palm Beach, a teenager who had spent months crafting a polished public image was quietly taken off stage. Pale, visibly unsettled. He never made it to the microphone. But even that wasn't the evening's peak. Around 10:30 p.m. Eastern, the full batch of screenshots hit the open web. Crockett's team uploaded everything to a public folder: usernames, timestamps, server logs, and excerpts from encrypted chats. She didn't post it herself, at least not at first. An intern did, hands shaking, with a short caption, "Since everyone keeps asking, here's what she brought." Within 15 minutes, nearly every major political journalist on Twitter had reposted it. By morning, it was everywhere. The screenshots were analyzed line by line on YouTube streams and cable news segments. Some brushed it off as adolescent trolling, while others noticed the conversations included specific references to Department of Energy memos and NATO briefings that hadn't been publicly released. That's what unsettled people. This wasn't just kids joking online. It appeared that someone, maybe multiple individuals, had been leaking classified information into what began as a private gaming Discord server. A user named BT Real had posted a meme that matched the layout of a document the Pentagon had only just started reviewing the week before. The initials weren't hard to decode. The real breakthrough came when two journalists from the Arizona Chronicle confirmed that the server had been flagged the previous month during a routine government cybersecurity sweep. That unit had reportedly sent warnings to several parents of minors found in the chats, except none to the Trump family. That omission hit hard. If accurate, it implied someone had deliberately excluded Barron's name. News anchors struggled with how to report it. Their discomfort showed. Some leaned too far into skepticism, while others treaded carefully as if navigating a minefield. Jasmine didn't hesitate. By 11 o'clock AM the following day, she was on 3 networks consecutively. She never named Barron directly, but her message was unmistakable. "This isn't about guilt," she said during an interview with WOSA 9 in D.C. "It's about whether the powerful are held to the same standards as everyone else." The host pushed back. "Aren't you concerned this has gone too far? We're talking about a former president's teenage son." Jasmine didn't blink. "I taught public school before Congress," she said. "I've seen kids locked up for doing less. With a Chromebook and a chat group. People think silence is enough just because he has security detail." That clip landed differently. She wasn't just a congresswoman challenging a former president's son. She was the teacher, the lawyer, the woman from Dallas who understood the rules and knew who usually paid the price. It was also the first time someone referenced digital traces. Forensic analysts already monitoring the situation began confirming that the screenshots contained genuine metadata. Some files included server info tied to Trump-owned property. A San Diego-based cybersecurity expert said on a podcast, "You don't stumble into access like this. Either you're an admin or someone gave you keys." The stakes escalated quickly. By mid-afternoon, the story was no longer just about Barron. It was about how these private servers stayed active for months, who funded them, and why the Department of Homeland Security had declined to comment twice. A former NSA advisor suggested on MSNBC that this wasn't the first time a politician's young relative got too close to classified material. The difference? This time, it was caught on camera before adults could cover it up. Meanwhile, Jasmine's credibility surged. Outlets that once labeled her fiery and fringe now spoke of her strategic bravery. She didn't celebrate the attention. She largely avoided the press that afternoon, letting the facts speak. The Trump family scrambled. No statement, no denial, just silence. Aside from a single tweet from a staffer, "Barron is a minor, show some respect." It backfired instantly. Thousands of replies pointed to teens who'd been prosecuted for much less. Jasmine reposted the tweet, adding, "Respect is earned, accountability is not optional." Even conservative commentators began shifting tone. One Fox News analyst admitted, "It's a bad look. Either the info's false or someone has explaining to do." But the story wasn't losing momentum, it was gaining it. That evening was meant to be low profile, a GOP donor event at the Four Seasons in Palm Beach. No press, no live streams, just a few dozen familiar faces and tight security. Barron had slowly returned to the public eye over recent months, speaking briefly at private events, appearing in curated Instagram posts. It was a soft reintroduction, polished, controlled. The goal, craft a new legacy, less aggressive than his father's, more composed, promising, untapped potential. That night, he was set to deliver a 5-minute welcome. Short, scripted, simple. Say hello, thank donors, pose for photos. But once the Crockett segment aired, everything changed. Word spread quickly through the venue. During cocktail hour, guests' phones buzzed. One woman showed another the clip of Jasmine holding up the folder. "You think it's real?" she whispered. 10 minutes before his speech, Barron's handler, a former Secret Service agent, got a call and pulled him aside. Witnesses said he turned pale and kept asking the same question. Did she show the chat logs? Walking backstage, a server described him as hunched over, breathing shallow, barely responsive. He never made it to the mic. A man in his 50s wearing a gold tie was the first to call for help. He'd been near the stage when Barron collapsed. No warning, no drama, just a thud as his legs gave out. Security rushed in. Someone shouted for a doctor. Before help arrived, someone backstage recorded a short clip, just 7 seconds. Barron sat slumped against a wall, blinking rapidly, hands shaking. His handler knelt beside him, shielding his face. The person filming was stopped, but the video leaked within an hour. It didn't go viral because it was dramatic. It was the expression on his face. Not confusion, not rage, just fear. Pure, visible fear. The Trump team quickly blamed dehydration. A spokesperson tweeted that he felt faint due to heat and low blood sugar. But it was a fully air-conditioned ballroom, no harsh lights. He hadn't even spoken yet. People weren't buying it. By midnight, 2 guests, speaking anonymously, confirmed Barron had repeatedly asked if people online knew it was him. That mattered. It revealed 2 things. He recognized the server name, and it had been weighing on him for a while. Jasmine never addressed the collapse. When asked the next day, she simply said, "My concern is national security, not the sensitivities of powerful families," then walked away. But behind the scenes, the story was growing. Intelligence teams began pulling traffic data from flagged IPs. A source at the cybersecurity firm Jasmine had consulted told a journalist in Santa Fe, "You wouldn't believe how many messages came from hotel networks used by Trump properties. We thought it was staffers. Maybe not." Attention returned to Jasmine's original question. If an average teen had shared just one of those files, would they be at home or already questioned by the feds? The public sentiment began shifting. Some younger conservatives online painted Barron as a victim, just 19, reposting content. But others pushed back hard. "Try being 19 and black with that excuse," read one viral post, racking up over 1 million likes. Barron's continued silence didn't help. No video, no statement, just a series of canceled appearances. A podcast with a conservative influencer was quietly dropped. A Georgetown campus tour postponed. His carefully curated digital trail had been shattered by a woman who didn't flinch under scrutiny. But Jasmine wasn't done, and neither was the investigation she'd sparked. By Sunday, the Crockett segment wasn't just a story, it was the story. Producers restructured programming to cover it. What began as a late-night panel comment had become something broader, messier. It wasn't just about Barron now. It was about privilege, accountability, and who gets shielded when rules are broken. Jasmine Crockett woke up to 98 missed calls. 2 staffers stayed overnight in her office to manage press. Her inbox had to be cloned 3 times just to stay online. Every major network reached out. Some supportive, others hostile. She chose only one. That afternoon, she gave a full 30-minute interview to Care 11 in Minneapolis, known for candid journalism. No flashy outfit, just a navy blouse, jeans, natural hair pulled back, the setting. A park bench, honest, deliberate. The anchor asked, "Congresswoman, what made you say that on live TV? You had to know what storm it would cause." Jasmine didn't hesitate. "I've sat with mothers whose sons went to jail for less. I've seen girls lose scholarships over a single post. I've begged judges to understand context. And then I watched a nation act like Barron Trump couldn't possibly do anything wrong just because of his last name." She paused. "So I said it. I had the proof. I wasn't going to pretend I didn't." That clip hit harder than the first. Not angry, not dramatic, just real. She sounded like someone who'd fought these battles quietly, without cameras, where no one listens unless you shout. It was empathy without compromise. In Washington, her colleagues noticed. A few progressives tweeted support. Moderate Democrats held back, watching. Even some Republican aides quietly expressed admiration, not for what she said, but for how directly she delivered it. She never named him, one staffer told a reporter, but she made it clear who was in the spotlight. Still, the Trump camp was scrambling. No formal word from Barron, just a vague PAC statement accusing Jasmine of political attacks. But there was no denial of the screenshots, no forensic rebuttal. Just talk of media bias and deep state conspiracies, like throwing water on grease. Conservative media fractured. Some hosts defended Barron, calling it a smear campaign. Others, more cautious, began asking real questions, especially about the security of Mar-a-Lago's networks. Then it turned personal. That night, Jasmine's home address was leaked. A neighbor noticed a car idling near her house around 10 p.m. Her team contacted Capitol Police. No harm done, but the threat felt real. Not from the public, but from powerful interests in the shadows. Still, she reported to work as usual, walked through the Capitol doors like nothing had happened. Her team urged her to wear a bulletproof vest. She declined. Went straight to the Judiciary Committee meeting, like any other Monday. But others were rattled. Within government circles, pressure mounted. Analysts confirmed several usernames in the leak matched people already under watch for extremist activity. One had been linked to a Georgia weapons case. Another had spoken about intercepting campaign data. This wasn't just talk anymore. It veered into national security. Jasmine was no longer just a congresswoman making bold claims. She was now a key figure in an unfolding federal cyber investigation. Media tone shifted. Outlets that once dismissed her were publishing think pieces on digital privilege and the so-called Jasmine Doctrine, a phrase coined by a UT Austin professor, reflecting what happens when someone forces the system to confront itself. Still, Jasmine knew the real story hadn't surfaced yet. Someone had tried to hide this long before she spoke up, and she wasn't the type to let things slide. She always asked the extra question, verified the second source, even when the answer was obvious. When the screenshots surfaced, her instincts kicked in. While headlines focused on Barron and Palm Beach, Jasmine looked deeper. How far did this go? Her team got to work, quietly, in a small office in Arlington, Virginia. No labels, no press. Old campaign posters covered the windows. The Wi-Fi password was scribbled on a sticky note under a mug. A former DOJ analyst on staff brought in a Baltimore-based forensic expert named Roland Diaz. Ex-military, no social media, paper over digital type. He plugged in a hard drive and began analyzing metadata, IP paths, device IDs, session logs. Jasmine watched closely. After hours of review, he leaned back. It's not just one server. The chats were mirrored. Mirrored how? She asked. He pulled up a file structure. Someone duplicated the logs across 2 additional servers. Same users, different hosts. One's routed through South Carolina, the other, Ukraine. Her pulse quickened. Could Ukraine be a VPN? Maybe, or someone masking traffic, Roland replied. But either way, this wasn't just kids talking. Someone was monitoring or storing this info for a reason. They stared at the screen. Dozens of usernames, some generic. One stood out. WhipChess56. Roland cross-checked it. It was linked to a private email belonging to a DC lobbyist. Someone Jasmine had seen in the Capitol just a week earlier, chatting casually with senior staffers. That's when she realized she might be dealing with something much bigger than the Trump family. She didn't slow down. Instead, she quietly flew to Durham, North Carolina, not to speak publicly, but to meet with a cybersecurity journalist who had been investigating private messaging channels linked to defense contractors. He showed her a post archived from a now-deleted forum. The wording mirrored the memes found in Barron's group chat. More unusually, one of the usernames was tagged as verified, meaning someone had confirmed that user had high-level access. It wasn't just about who was in the chat anymore. It was about who had let them in. She returned to Washington, D.C., carrying a heavy stack of printed documents and a persistent headache. Her phone had been buzzing all day. Some calls from allies, others from unknown numbers that left no messages. At one point, a trusted contact at the Office of Congressional Ethics texted her a single word: careful. She didn't respond. Instead, she walked straight into a closed-door meeting with 3 members of the House Cybersecurity Caucus and laid out her findings. No theatrics, no grandstanding, just facts. They listened. One of them, a soft-spoken representative from Oregon, asked gently, "Do you think Barron fully understood what he was involved in?" Jasmine answered without pause, "I think he knew enough to know he shouldn't get caught." The room went quiet, not because they disagreed, but because they understood. They knew the implications when privileged families gained access to restricted data. They also knew how fast stories like this could disappear without public pressure. Jasmine changed that dynamic. Her evidence wasn't rumor, it was a trail that was becoming harder to dismiss. Reporters waited outside, but Jasmine didn't stop to make a statement. Instead, she glanced down the hall and noticed a familiar face. An aide from the ethics committee who had brushed her off the year before. She gave a silent nod, then stepped outside into the warm air and lit a cigarette. The first in 6 years. But even as the smoke rose, someone new had begun watching. Someone much closer to the Trump circle than she had anticipated. By Tuesday evening, it was clear Jasmine had hit a nerve. She didn't need headlines to tell her that. The signs were subtle. Ambiguous emails, strange behavior from longtime colleagues. A trusted connection from Louisiana stopped replying. A once friendly committee staffer now avoided eye contact in the elevator. The cold shoulders didn't bother her. What followed did. Around 9:40 p.m., Jasmine's aide, Curtis, was locking up their Arlington office when he noticed something strange. The back door was slightly ajar. Barely noticeable, just a faint draft slipping through. He was sure he'd closed it earlier. He circled the building. Nothing. Then took a closer look at the door. That's when he saw it. 2 small scratches near the keypad lock, like someone had tried to tamper with it. No damage, nothing obviously forced, but someone had touched it. Curtis took a photo, locked the door properly, and drove straight to Jasmine's condo across the river in Alexandria. She was still up, sifting through field reports. He showed her the image. She nodded slowly. They're trying to rattle us. She didn't panic. She didn't even pick up her phone. Instead, she looked him in the eye. Starting tomorrow, we go dark. Burners only. No email, no Slack, no shared files. Roll in pairs. Keep it clean. The next morning, she filed a report about the tampering with Capitol Police. When asked if she'd received any threats, she hesitated, then said yes. Because she had. The first was a direct text from an unknown number. Stop before someone else does. The second was left in her mailbox, printed in bold caps. You think you're smart, watch yourself. No signature, no return address, no prints. Capitol Police took the threat seriously. They assigned her additional security and added her name to their threat watch list. But Jasmine knew how that often played out. Lots of documentation, little follow-through. So she did what she always had. Told the truth. Publicly. That Friday, she appeared on The Morning Table, a rising YouTube news show based in Oakland. It wasn't mainstream, but it had reach. And more importantly, trust. Their Gen Z-heavy audience wasn't interested in polished soundbites. They wanted the raw truth. Jasmine delivered. I'm not backing down, she said, voice steady. If someone is leaking classified material through private servers at a Trump property, I want to know who, and I want to know why. She didn't stop there. She named names, cybersecurity consultants, former Trump administration contractors, even a past intern who bragged online about insider access. Nothing reckless, nothing speculative, just names already in the public domain, now tied to her evidence. The video hit 4 million views in 24 hours. For the first time, Jasmine wasn't just responding to a crisis, she was driving the conversation. Top comments poured in. He's doing what the press won't. This is why they try to silence women like her. Then, something shifted. A woman named Brina Telford, a junior staffer at a private security firm in Arlington, reached out through Jasmine's encrypted tip line. She didn't share much, just that she had flagged something months ago. An IP address from Mar-a-Lago connected to a foreign server. He'd reported it. Nothing happened. Her supervisor told her to drop it. But she had documentation. Jasmine arranged to meet her at a diner in Rockville, Maryland. Brina arrived anxious, barely touching her coffee, but she slid across a sealed envelope. Inside, internal emails, time logs, and a redacted report showing the firm had detected suspicious data activity from an admin-level user. On the same date as one of the viral chat screenshots. Jasmine thanked her, gave her a private contact for emergencies, and watched her go. Then she turned to Curtis and said quietly, "They've been sitting on this for months." He didn't ask who they were, he already knew. But what Jasmine didn't know, what no one in her circle knew yet, was that someone even closer to the Trump family was about to reach out. The message came at 2:00 AE. She was asleep when her encrypted phone pinged. The alert tone was different, lower, briefer. It only activated when a new contact reached out via the secure system Roland had set up. She read the message once, then again. I can't watch this stay buried. You're asking the right questions, but you don't know how far up it goes. It was unsigned, ending only with L. Most anonymous tips led nowhere, people wanting attention, bored sleuths. But this one felt different. No theatrics, just a request to meet. Location, Reston, Virginia. Time, 5 p.m. Place, back lot of Stansfield Medical Plaza. Jasmine didn't respond. She showed Curtis, who raised an eyebrow. Could be a trap. She nodded, or the only one in that family with a conscience. They brought backup, 2 trusted aides in a separate car, with eyes on the lot. Jasmine arrived alone, no press, no fanfare. Ann approached in sunglasses, a hooded sweatshirt, and a cap. He stopped 6 feet away and lifted his hood. Logan Myers, he said softly. She exhaled. She knew him. Barron's former tech advisor. Once tapped to manage cybersecurity for the Trump Foundation, Logan had an impressive background and a clean record. Then he vanished after a sudden falling out last winter. No posts, no interviews. Until now. You were on the server? Jasmine asked. He nodded. I helped build it. For a moment, everything clicked. The usernames, screenshots, IPs. He was the link. I started it as a sandbox, Logan said. A space for Barron and his friends to experiment. Code, game mods, tech tools. But others joined, people I didn't know. And then classified stuff started showing up. Why didn't you shut it down? She asked. I tried, but too many people had access. Too many workarounds. When I flagged it to a Mar-a-Lago staffer, they told me, it's under control. Don't touch it. Jasmine stared at him. And you listened? I was scared. Then Barron started posting logs to impress older users. It wasn't just play anymore. What happened in April? She asked. Logan hesitated, then pulled out a flash drive. It's all here. Screenshots, admin logs. One video that was never posted. He was screen sharing while inside a restricted military database. Just for a few minutes, but he was in. Jasmine didn't reach for the drive. She looked at him. Why now? Logan swallowed. Because the story they're spinning? That he's just a kid who didn't know better? I can't live with that. I saw him laugh when people begged for access. He's not innocent. He just knows his name protects him. She finally took the drive and slid it into her coat pocket. Where are you staying? Gaithersburg. Burner phone. I change rooms every 2 days. I'll have someone keep an eye out, she said. But once this goes public, there's no walking it back. He nodded. As he turned, he stopped. One more thing. He didn't act alone. A consultant used to work under Kushner. She managed the logins. What's her name? He didn't speak, just handed over a torn piece of paper. One name, Perry Saldina. Oh, Jasmine memorized it. That night, she locked her door and didn't speak for 3 hours. She sat with Curtis and Roland, watching the videos on the flash drive in silence. It was worse than she expected. Not just maps or emails, a clip showed Barron joking on mic about getting away with murder if you've got the right last name. He laughed. Others did too. But this wasn't about jokes anymore. She had enough to blow the story wide open, and once she did, no one, Democrat or Republican, could claim ignorance. Her chief of staff warned her. So did her press secretary, even Roland. Too risky, too fast, too big. But Jasmine knew the clock had already started the moment she took that drive. If she waited, someone else would move, someone with resources to twist facts into fiction. She didn't want spin, she wanted clarity. So she called an old friend, Nadia Price, anchor at KTVB7 in Boise, not a major outlet, but one of the few Jasmine trusted completely. I want to go live, she said. Tomorrow, 15 minutes, no edits, no preview. Nadia didn't ask why, she just said, be here by 6. At 6:57 p.m. Mountain Time, the camera light blinked red. Jasmine sat alone across from Nadia, who opened with a single line. Tonight, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has requested a few minutes to speak directly to the public. We have not been briefed. The floor is hers. Jasmine cleared her throat, stared into the camera, and began. Most of you know me as the woman who brought screenshots to a TV show and asked a difficult question. Then a teenager collapsed, a political dynasty scrambled, and people wondered if I'd gone too far. But the truth is, I didn't go far enough. She reached into her jacket and placed the flash drive on the desk. This contains logs, credentials, videos, Clear evidence linking Barron Trump not just to a private server, but to direct, unauthorized access to classified military systems. This isn't an allegation. It's proof. He paused, letting the weight of it settle. I've verified every piece. Verified by 2 independent cybersecurity firms, both of which confirmed the materials were authentic. What you're about to see is not a story of a teenager making careless errors. It reveals a broader system of adults who knew, ignored, and even protected. Jasmine didn't raise her voice or grandstand. She spoke calmly, like someone reciting entries from a journal she had written over and over in her head. This isn't just about Barron. It's about what happens when certain last names are allowed to bypass the rules. When kids from powerful families access documents that would land others in serious legal trouble just for opening. And when those in authority remain silent, not because they don't know, but because speaking up risks losing influence, contracts, or paychecks. Then Jasmine said a name, Perry Saldana. Nadia's eyes flicked wide just slightly. Jasmine went on, Perry Saldana, a former consultant under Jared Kushner, appears in 3 internal memos as having arranged private logins for individuals connected to this server network. She's not a minor. She's not a bystander. She was a publicly funded contractor who facilitated access to the same platform Barron used. And then, unexpectedly, Jasmine looked directly into the camera again. To Barron Trump, she said, you had the opportunity to speak up. You had the chance to take responsibility. But your silence was bought by those who built this situation. If you want to be taken seriously, not just as a Trump, but as a person, start with honesty, even for a moment. The studio was completely silent. Jasmine leaned back and added, the full data is being submitted to federal investigators, alongside a formal request for immediate hearings into the misuse of secure information by individuals protected through political privilege. She stood and left the set before Nadia could even thank her. Within 5 hours, the video had reached 5 million views. More importantly, it made its way to the inboxes of officials at the Department of Justice, the House Intelligence Committee, and the Pentagon. People who had previously ignored Jasmine's messages began to respond. Journalists who once dismissed her now asked for follow-ups. Later that night, Barron Trump's PR team issued a short response. We are consulting legal counsel to address these false claims and protect the reputation of a private citizen. But the tone was different. Gone was the sarcasm. Gone was the bravado. The message felt like it came from a team that knew they were in trouble. Even conservative media could no longer avoid the story. One late-night host put it plainly. Jasmine didn't accuse, she demonstrated. Yet for Jasmine, the real challenge wasn't revealing the truth. It was ensuring it wasn't buried before anyone acted on it. The Trump camp responded quicker than expected, but not more wisely. By 10:00 a.m. the following day, Barron's legal team released a full-page statement, black text on a plain white background, with no graphics or videos. The headline read, Setting the Record Straight, Lies, Leaks, and Political Theater. The body was thick with legal jargon, claiming Jasmine Crockett's statements were false, defamatory, and politically driven. They said the flash drive was unauthorized, that the data was selectively presented, and hinted at upcoming lawsuits. But what wasn't said spoke volumes. They didn't deny the existence of the chat server, they ignored the leaked admin footage. Perry Saldana's name wasn't mentioned. Most notably, there was no statement from Barron himself, not even a signature. Jasmine's team spotted the weaknesses instantly. They're bluffing, Roland said, pacing in the office. If they had proof this was fake, we'd already be buried in expert reports. Instead, they're tossing paperwork onto a burning fire. Jasmine didn't gloat. No victory tweets, no reposting of the memes spreading rapidly online. She had something else planned. That evening, she held a town hall, not in D.C., not in New York, but in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A high school gym filled with students, parents, and educators living with the consequences of systems that play favorites. The crowd wasn't massive, but it was engaged. People came with honest questions and lived experiences. One father talked about his son being expelled over a text he didn't send. A girl from the back asked what it felt like to challenge someone powerful. Jasmine didn't dress it up. It's like carrying a glass sculpture You didn't break through a fire, she replied. Then she shared something no one had heard yet. There's a reason these people stay quiet, she said. They know what happens when they speak. They know the world will label them angry, bitter, ungrateful. But I'm not here to be agreeable. I'm here to ask what happens when the rest of us are done with silence. A clip of that moment went viral on TikTok before the event was even over. Teenagers who had never watched a full political speech were sharing it. One caption read, "She's not yelling, she's just done pretending." Meanwhile, media watchdogs turned their focus toward the digital structure supporting Barron. Over the past 6 months, he'd made quiet appearances at 3 donor events, launched a short-lived podcast, now erased from the internet, and reportedly hired 2 consultants with federal tech contracts. That last detail drew particular attention because one of those consultants, Rhett Lovell, had also worked with Saldana. Reporters started connecting dots Jasmine hadn't even brought up. The controversy was no longer just about a chat server. It was about how privilege slowly constructs a wall so tall, people forget others are even on the other side. As pressure mounted, former allies began to distance themselves. 2 right-leaning PACs froze future endorsements for Barron. Senator Vickers of Nevada, a longtime family friend, pulled out of a scheduled appearance, citing personal reasons. Even within Trump's circle, the silence was starting to echo. Meanwhile, Jasmine was invited onto PBS NewsHour, not to debate, not to argue, but to reflect. When asked how it felt to stand up to a name like Trump, she said it was never about the name. It was about what the name allowed people to get away with. She paused, then added, "This isn't about me being right. It's about a nation being tired of getting it wrong." The quote made front-page headlines the next day. Even conservative columnist Alton Greer, who had once labeled Jasmine a chaos agent, wrote an op-ed titled, "Maybe the System Needed a Shake." While media outlets debated the politics, everyday people responded in a way Jasmine hadn't anticipated, with gratitude. Letters began arriving. Emails came in from teachers, parents, teenagers. One woman in Fresno, who worked nights at a data center, wrote, "My son was removed from a college waitlist because of a tweet. You gave me something to show him, a reason to keep pushing forward." Jasmine hadn't sought fame. What she wanted was real change, because if nothing shifted, everything she had put on the line, her safety, credibility, and peace of mind, would amount to little more than noise. And she wasn't made for noise. She was made for change. But there was one final piece, one headline, that would transform this from a moment into a legacy. That headline dropped on a Wednesday morning, from a source no one saw coming. White House acknowledges irregularities in past cybersecurity oversight involving Mar-a-Lago networks. It wasn't an admission of wrongdoing. It wasn't even presented as breaking news. Hidden inside a dry, bureaucratic press release from the Office of the National Cyber Director was a brief paragraph. It confirmed that a 2023 internal audit had flagged unusual access patterns linked to private servers in Florida. No names, no drama, but for those tracking the story, it was the smoking gun. Jasmine read it twice, then sent it to Roland with a simple message. "It's done." The fight wasn't over, but the barrier had cracked. What began as a dismissed news segment, a slim folder and a microphone, had sparked a national conversation that couldn't be buried again. People were engaged, people were listening, more importantly, people were asking. That afternoon, Jasmine stepped outside the Capitol for a brief press conference. Not in front of national networks, but with local reporters, student journalists, and community media, the ones who had reached out to her directly. She gave them the spotlight, not the institutions. "This isn't about classified files or chat logs," she told them. "It's about what we permit because of someone's last name, what we overlook, what we excuse." She didn't sound victorious. She sounded worn, but clear. She answered every question. Yes, she still feared retaliation. Yes, she worried it would happen again, with another person, another password, another identity no one wanted to investigate. But no, she didn't regret it. "Silence is costly," she said, "and I couldn't afford it anymore." Then she walked away. No applause, no spotlight. Back home, things had changed. Her voicemail had shifted. Less hate, more hope. A mother in Columbus thanked her for speaking out. A veteran in Kansas City said he used to believe politics was just for show. until she brought evidence. Even a surprising letter arrived from a former aide to the Trump family. Handwritten, no return address, just one line. He needed to be held accountable. No one in that house ever dared. In the following weeks, the House Cybersecurity Subcommittee formally opened a review based on Jasmine's evidence. No more evasion, no more scripted deflections. Perry Saldana was subpoenaed, Logan Myers agreed to testify behind closed doors, and Barron, still silent, still hidden behind legal shields and public statements, was. But the story had shifted. Not because Jasmine shouted, and not because she performed, but because she told the truth and believed people would see it. That may be her lasting impact. Because in a culture driven by noise, Jasmine reminded the country of something powerful. Unchecked power fades, but the truth endures. It doesn't care about your zip code, your family name, or your bank balance. She had been dismissed, mocked, labeled loud, angry, emotional. Every subtle insult reserved for women like her who speak up when others stay quiet. But she never let it stop her. Because this wasn't about proving who she was. It was about proving who we could be. If we stopped waiting for the powerful to do what's right and started asking the right people the right questions. The last image the public saw of Jasmine wasn't a viral clip or dramatic speech. It was her, sitting in a circle with high school students in Des Moines. No cameras, just stories and questions. One girl asked her, "When did you know it was worth it?" Jasmine smiled. "When they stopped laughing," she said, and started listening. So if you're watching this and you've ever been told to sit down, wait your turn, or stay silent for your own good, don't. Change doesn't happen when powerful people speak. It happens when the truth finally gets heard. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. Not just to hear what's next, but to stand with those who ask the hard questions, no matter who they make uncomfortable.